Hello and welcome back to Landon's white t-shirt and headphone art vlog. I guess not a blog because I'm talking to a camera. So today we'll be talking about skyscrapers and how they were an integral part of the creation of Chicago as much of a city as it is now. Now, Chicago was actually the first city to have a skyscraper, first built in 1885. It was called, it was a home insurance building, and it was only 10 stories, okay? It was only 10 stories. And it was created with metal, as skyscrapers are usually made out of. Just 5 years later, in 1890, they actually added an additional 2 stories to this building just 5 years after the building was created. Now, coincidentally, the creation of the skyscraper came directly after the Great Chicago Fire, and the Great Chicago Fire burned everything down, which happened to just coincidentally be a perfect timing for them to start building skyscrapers instead of the wood buildings that they had before. Now, soon after the Chicago Fire, an engineer had found out that he had learned about iron skeletons and that he could probably put one in a building in order for it to support more weight. His name was Gustav Eiffel was his name. At first, most buildings in Chicago were very simple skyscrapers, and then eventually they became more residential. Well, not more residential, but residential skyscrapers were being created, and then and they kept getting more and more complex until we see what we have today with those interesting ones, like the one building with like the V-shaped base, and then the building with the arc at the top and the arc at the bottom. I think both those buildings are very interesting architecturally. On the river tour that we took, there was a lot that I had learned on the tour, such as that Chicago is the home to the world's second tallest tower, but it does have the tallest. It has the highest floor that has people actually using it, which is way at the top. The top floor, whatever the number that is. I don't know what number it is. I don't know how many floors are in the Sears Tower, or I guess the Willis Tower now, but I grew up calling it the Sears, and I think I will continue to call it the Sears Tower. But directly after that is the Trump building. The Trump building is the second tallest tower in the city, and the third tallest tower, I don't know what it is now, but I know based on the tour, the third tallest tower in the city is soon to be created, or will soon overtake the current third tallest building. I think it's really interesting how each building in Chicago almost is its own unique thing, all created with its own story and its own like architectural design. Like it's very, very rare when there are two buildings that are alike, unless they're both, you know, residential. But other than that, it's very interesting how they all seem to be different. One of the more interesting skyscrapers in Chicago is called the Aqua skyscraper, and it is a mixed-use skyscraper with a part of it being residential. This skyscraper is 82 floors. It's 82 stories. Yes, it's 82 stories, and it has 5 stories underground that are not counting that 82 that are just for parking alone. So this is a huge skyscraper, and it looks really, really interesting the way it was designed. It's called Aqua because it looks like it's flowing like water, depending on how the sun hits it. On the roof of the building, it is topped with gardens and pools and such, and I think that's really, really cool. And it also got an award for the Emporis Skyscraper Award, and then this award is it is given to a new skyscraper for design and art and functionality. So as you can see, it's a very functional skyscraper. Another interesting story about the skyscrapers in Chicago is that the third tallest one, I believe, the Aon Center. I don't know exactly how tall that one is, but I believe it's 80 stories, but each story is a little bit taller than usual. But it's 80 stories, and when they finished the tower in the 1970s, this is a story that was told to us on the river cruise, but in the 1970s, they created the tower. When they finished it with marble, they thought the marble was going to be a good idea, but then I believe this says here is 14 years later, and in 14 years the marble started to buckle, so they had to replace it, and they decided to replace it with granite. But it being the tallest tower and so large, it was extremely expensive for them to replace it. It cost them $80 million to replace all of the marble on the building with granite, which is completely ridiculous, because that was, what was that? That was half of the original cost of the building, so they had to basically pay 150% of the building's cost in order to have it be functional, which is ridiculous. The last building that I'd like to talk about is the Trump Tower, which architecturally, it's actually really interesting. The tower actually points at different buildings in the city if you look at it from different angles, and it has 3 step-like points on it that point in different directions. And the first point points at the cornice, which is the cornice of the nearby Wrigley building. The second one points both north toward River Plaza and west towards Marina City. And the third one points to Mies van der Rohe, last Chicago project known as the AMA Plaza. And that's very interesting to me, how the tower was able to be constructed in such a way, given the space that it was given, to still point to these specific buildings that I'm pretty sure were there before this building was created. If not, that would be just a coincidence that these were even placed in such a way. But I like to believe that they were placed in this way, so that it's just architecturally interesting. I don't know the direct correlation between those buildings, but I hope that it exists, so that it actually would make sense. But I think that's it for this one. Thank you for watching, and until next time.